health viewers from around the world. I'm Kristen Schwartz, licensed midwife and MC for Gold Learning. And today I'm chatting with Dr. Lori Brotto about her upcoming presentation, Sexual Health in Pregnancy and the Postpartum. Welcome, Lori.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for taking time to chat with me today, and we're very excited about your presentation. But before we go into more details about that, tell us a little bit about yourself, about your professional journey, and how you got interested in that topic.
Sure, I would be delighted to. So my professional career began when I was an undergraduate student at university, and I became involved in a laboratory that was examining the effects of different medications and antidepressants on the sexual behavior of rodents. So my role at that time involved injecting different medications as well as stressing these little rodents and examining the impact on sexual behavior and sexual activity. I did that for about 6 years, and in around 1999, when Viagra or sildenafil citrate was approved for the treatment of sexual dysfunction in men, I began to look at the literature on what was available for women with sexual concerns. Now, the reason mostly that I was interested in that question was in that same year in 1999, a landmark study was published, and it found that women experience sexual difficulties at very high rates. So, that one particular study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that up to 40% of women experience distressing sexual concerns. So that same year, I left the rodent laboratory and I began to do research on human females, looking at sexual arousal patterns, mostly in postmenopausal women. Was also very interested in the impact of the menstrual cycle on sexual arousal patterns. And so, fast forward about 15 years since then, my research has really taken me into the domain of examining treatments for women with sexual concerns. As a clinician, I'm particularly interested in sexual health in the pregnancy and the postpartum because I frequently encounter this concern in my clinical practice where a woman who's contemplating pregnancy might have concerns or questions around how will the pregnancy and how will the delivery affect my sexual response and my sexual activity. And then also in turn, women during the postpartum period, I also frequently encounter them in my clinical practice with questions around my libido hasn't returned and it's already 12 weeks postpartum. When can I expect my desire to come back? So I do think that this is a very important clinical question, and I'm very excited to be sharing some of the evidence-based literature with the audience.
Mm. And you brought up a very important point there. You're saying, talking about women in pregnancy and postpartum. Um, we are then not only dealing with the physical aspect, but obviously also with emotional and mental aspects as well. There's a lot of stressors then on the woman or the family during that time frame and after. So, can you tell us a little bit, without giving too much away, what could be some of the challenges during that period for women and the family?
Yes, well, as you very aptly pointed out, there can be very significant psychosocial and psychological contributors to changes and adjustments in sexuality during the postpartum period. And one of the things, again, without giving away too much, but we do know that some of those psychosocial factors are more important than some of the more physical and physiological changes in predicting sexual health. So, fatigue and feeling unwell or unrested or just downright run off your feet can be a major contributor to changes in sexual response and in sexual activity. So, throughout my presentation, we'll be sharing some of the evidence showing just how much do factors like fatigue and lack of sleep contribute to those changes and what can women do about it?
Very good. I'm really looking forward to that presentation. And now, again, without giving too much away, but would you like our delegates to take away from your presentation?
So I think it's very important that the delegates feel like they have the skills and the ability to ask questions about sexual health among their clients. Oftentimes, there may be a feeling of this is outside of my area of training. I really need to ensure that this woman sees a sexual medicine expert. And in fact, what we know is that some basic and empathic questioning, giving the woman permission to talk about her sexual concerns in the clinical setting can be among the most therapeutic things that they can receive. So my hope is that the delegates feel empowered to be able to ask questions about sexual health in pregnancy and the postpartum, and that they can provide some basic education, and importantly that they know when to refer when the concerns are outside of their area of expertise.
Thank you. I like how you phrased it that care providers don't need to be the experts, but just giving women permission to talk about it is a big issue right there. And I am really curious about to learn more about that and looking forward to your presentation. Thank you so much for chatting with me today.
My
And
pleasure. It was a real treat.
thank you. And Dr. Laurie Brotto's presentation, Sexual Health in Pregnancy and the Postpartum, is part of the Gold Online Perinatal Conference 2017. Her presentation will be live on October 23rd. And for more information on this presentation and when it will be live in your time zone, please visit www.goldlearning.com and, of course, www.goldperinatal.com. Thank you all for listening. Bye bye, everyone.